Alright guys, we have yet another event to cover. Konami actually dropped 2 events for this particular month, which is great. I wish there were more. I wish there was a festival going on like the entire month. If there was 3 festivals, I'd be happy. I like the festivals. It gives you an alternative to playing in the regular. I think they're phenomenal, but this one is the Extra Deck Zero Festival. The whole idea of this festival is not to use your extra deck. Now, this video is actually kind of hard to make because they really banned a lot of stuff. Like, the decks that come to mind when you think of this are like gone. Like Kashtira banned, Fire Kings, like pure, I'm talking pure Fire Kings, gone. The Rescue Ace, gone. Voiceless Voice, gone. Like, all of the decks that you would think wouldn't be here are gone. They give you 3 loner decks here. You've got the sarcophagus, shining sarcophagus deck. This is the deck that they want you to play. This is the whole reason they dropped this thing. It's a little bit weird. There's like magic cylinder. The deck's weird, but there's a lot of some weirdness here. In theory, the most upgraded, like strongest version of this deck is what they actually want you to play. And then you've got Therion, which is like pure Therion. You know, it's okay. And then the this is the Gishki deck, which is I'd say one of the better ritual decks in the game. It's okay, but it is missing some of its extra deck components. But I think this is a decent deck. But let's go look at the pre-created decks. But before we do that, would you like to make your Master Duel experience a whole lot better?
Are you ready to take your Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel Play experience to a new level? The Untap GG Companion is here for you. Use the deck tracker to know exactly what cards you have in your deck, and to go over any cards you aren't familiar with yet by hovering over them. It instantly updates when you draw a card, and automatically hides if you check your extra deck or graveyard. This is the perfect tool to help you master a new deck. The Untap GG Companion also lets you import decks directly into the game in seconds. Copy any YDK or YDKE deck string, create a new deck in-game, click the Start Auto Import button, and let us take the wheel. Once the duel is over, check your win rate on your personal stats page. Brag among your friends and share your decks so they can import them into the game too. Start your path to master today by downloading the Untap GG Companion at ygom.untapped.gg.
Okay, let's look at some decks. So I created a mix of both budget and kind of like good constructed expensive decks. The first one is True Dracos. True Dracos is a fairly good deck. It is hit a little bit on this ban list, but not outrageously so. Monarchs would have been a good deck to play for sure on this on this particular game mode, but yeah, definitely Monarchs would have been good. It probably would have been one of the best decks to play, but unfortunately they banned Monarchs Erupt, which is like one of the major reasons to play Monarchs in the first place. By banning Monarchs Erupt, they kind of hit that deck. They hit the floodgates. Like, a lot of the floodgates are totally like gone, which obviously is good for the game, but when you have an event that doesn't use the extra deck, it's kind of weird to ban the floodgates. It's like, you know what I'm saying? The extra deck is gone, so all of the anti-extra deck floodgates are all gone too. It is a little bit weird, but yeah, basically this is one of the budget decks. As you can see, the main deck doesn't have any URs. Technically, this is a UR, but you don't have to play. You can play other draw cards. You don't have to play Time Tearing Morganite, but this is very much a budget deck, and you can like work things in, work things out. There are cool cards that are optional, like Magical Broker and this guy right here. You can't possibly pronounce that, but some cool cards that you can use. And overall, this is, despite being typically a floodgate deck, this is a reasonably fun deck. Okay, next up is Phantasm Spirals. You can mess with this build a little bit. This is another cheaper deck. The only thing that you kind of have to craft, I would say, like the only card that you're obligated to craft is maybe Metaverse. That's the only card that I would maybe recommend crafting, because Metaverse is technically one of the only ways left to get to your field spell, just because like a lot of the Umi stuff is hit. That's another weird thing. Like Fish Sonar's hit, the Legendary Ocean deck is actually completely hit. So there are actually more decks that are hit, and it's actually kind of shocking how thorough this ban list is. This is one of the most thorough ban lists I've ever seen on an event ever. But yeah, there's a lot of things banned. This is a very low, possibly a very low power type of festival, which is going to be kind of cool to see. So even though you don't have a lot of searchers for your Phantasm Spiral field spell, overall it still gives you the ability, maybe because the power level is so low, it might still give you the ability to get to the Phantasm Spiral City, because duels might last longer. But this is very, very much a budget deck. Like, the only thing I would recommend crafting would be Metaverse. Outside of that, I mean, it's to the point of budget that it's possibly you can even avert getting super rares. Like, it's that much of a budget deck. Like, you could throw this together. It's staples and a bunch of rares and commons. You could throw this in. You could throw this together today. You could. It really is. It's incredibly easy to make. Next is Hungry Burger. This is another deck that is available to you. It's another deck that really doesn't. I mean, technically, it would use the extra deck if you were playing the more pure version of the deck. You would technically be using the extra deck, but this deck can definitely do a lot without actually utilizing an extra deck, which is quite nice. It's easy to summon Hungry Burger. It's super easy to get the Hungry Burger. It's super easy to search. You have an in-archetype counter trap, in-archetype removal. You contribute your opponent's monsters to special summon and use them as material. Like, there's a lot that you can do with this deck. Definitely a very strong deck. One of the best ritual decks available. Just because, like I said, Voiceless Voice got absolutely murdered on the ban list. Their main cards, Low and the other guy, are gone. So this probably actually is the best ritual deck. Gishki, this deck are probably, either one could really be the best, but this is definitely up there in terms of the ritual decks that you can actually still play. Next is Sacred Beast. Now, this deck actually got hit on the ban list, but not by this ban list. It got hit because of, unfortunately, it got hit because of Yubel. They wanted to slow down Yubel, so they hit the Phantasm Sacred Beast package, which I understand why they did that, because they didn't want to hit the newer cards, so they hit some of these cards. But this is another deck that is kind of budget. Like, yeah, it uses super rares and stuff, but it doesn't use any, there's no main deck URs that you have to craft whatsoever. These are all, look at this, this is all super rare, super rare, super rare. They're all super rares. It's kind of cool. And what the deck basically does, it summons Hamon or Ravael, and they're 4,000 attack, 4,000 defense, gigantic monsters. And you have the Fallen Paradise, which makes it so your opponent can't destroy them by card effects, and your opponent can't target them. And on top of that, there's other things. You can draw 2 cards per turn, like Pot of Greed. So that actually you can target them. You just can't destroy. Yeah, no, they can't. You can't target them. You can't destroy them. And you draw 2 cards every single turn. Which is also like kind of crazy, because you essentially you draw the 1 card for your draw phase and then 2 more for this. So you're drawing 3 cards per turn, as long as you can keep a Hamon, a 4,000 attack monster with protection on the board. So this deck is like, once you get a Sacred Beast and a field spell up, you basically win the duel most of the time. But this is another really, really good like budget strategy available to you without having to make the Shining Sarcophagus stuff. Next is Megalith. This is one of like the budget decks of all budget decks. It is basically, this is a pure build. You don't use the extra deck. Typically you would use the extra deck because the deck has tuners and stuff like that, which can allow you to get to like Baron and make decent plays. Typically you would be able to do that stuff, especially if you're using the Herald. I forgot what her name is, the Herald of the Diviner. If you're using Herald of the Diviner, you can actually go fairly easily into Baron and stuff like that. But this is the deck without it. It's a very pure deck. The only thing that I will say is that it does have slightly complicated combo lines, and it does take a while to play. Like, when I say take a while to play, your turns are going to last a significant amount of time, and you might run out of time trying to learn this deck. This is definitely one of the more difficult decks to learn out of the decks that I'm showing you, but it's very budget. So, I mean, maybe it's worth learning for you because you're not spending any gems or crafting points, materials to make this deck. So perhaps it is good for you. Now, like I said, there are other decks that are much easier to play that just will eat less of your time and less of your brain power, to be honest with you. So this is definitely an option, probably one of the better ones too. Okay, so I've shown you guys 5 different decks. I did say top 5 decks, plus, you know, the loner decks. Golden Sarcophagus, obviously a deck. This is kind of an experimental deck. This is the one I was thinking about. They actually didn't hit Darkworld, which I thought was pretty interesting that they didn't hit Darkworld. Darkworld does usually need an extra deck, but because they hit so many cards and so many decks, I actually think that Darkworld might be a half decent deck to play in this festival. Like, they literally have hit so many things. I honestly think maybe this would actually work. You have some of the Danger, some of the Darkworld. You summon these 3,000 attack monsters, and you kind of just attack for game. It's not like your opponent's summoning some 5,000 huge monster nobody can out. Like, that's not happening. There's no extra deck monsters. So perhaps playing through this is actually quite decent. Yeah, it might actually be a half decent option available to you. And it's like, what is this deck really competing with? Phantasm Spirals? This deck can beat that. It has things like Thunderbird and Bigfoot and Graph. Like, it has removal. So like, what is this really competing with? It definitely needs to be optimized, but I actually think this deck has some potential to be one of the better decks in this festival. Now, this is the end of the video. If there are any decks that I forgot, please let me know in the comment section down below. This was a very difficult video to make. They were super duper precise with that ban list. They literally banned every extra deck card, and then they went through the trouble of banning every deck that came to mind when I tried to make this video. So I really had to put some effort into this one. Thank you for watching and have a great day. La, 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 la.